Welcome to Canada's Entrepreneur, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen across Canada and deliver the news, trends, knowledge, and opinions from entrepreneurs and business influencers across the country. Hi, everybody. I'm Phil Bliss, founder of Canada's Entrepreneur, and I have a long-standing friend of mine, David Eisenstadt of the Communications Group. We've been competitors and friends for a long time. And, you know, as we come under this new brand, Canada's Entrepreneur, I thought it would be a very good idea to have some programming that talks about, you know, memories, business memories, marketing memories, for us, marketing memories that that really kind of maybe you're not going to see today, basically. Maybe you are, but you know, these are interesting ones. With that in mind, we're going to talk about, for us, we're marketing guys, so we're going to talk about 6 marketing memories from what I would say were 2 marketing innovators of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We mainly because we were predominantly marketing technology companies. So the first one, I think, you know, going back to the 90s, and you know, there were things that we did then that you just can't do anymore. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So the first one I want to bring in is really, I used to own 3 hot air balloons and use them for promotional purposes. And we were launching a new Microsoft product from Microsoft. And we're basically going to fly the hot air balloon down the Don Valley Parkway to Toronto Island as part of a product launch. And you know, just to even think of doing that today is, you know, not possible, basically. Anyway, we got everything tested. We were at the top of the parkway. We were staying in a hotel overnight. We parked the balloon, put it in its trailer, and you know, went in, had a few drinks, and hung out. When we got there in the morning at about 6 o'clock in the morning, the balloon wasn't there. And hot air balloons, you don't think of it, but with the wrong people, you know, there's a propane tank that's, you know, as big as a person, and we're in Don Mills, which is, you know, somewhat populated area. So we immediately got onto the police. And of course, both being media guys, I immediately got onto the Globe and the Post and all of these guys to track it down. Not for any other reason than I didn't want anyone to get hurt, because if somebody took this underground or whatever, or they, you know, opened up the propane tank and let it go, it could have caused massive problems. Anyway, doing all the right things, you know, phoning, you know, we're both PR people and marketing guys, so we knew everybody. I knew everybody. The only problem was we were still doing new product launch for Microsoft, and more importantly, Bill Gates was coming into town. So we were, you know, it was a big deal. And in our enthusiasm to protect people and not have them, you know, in any danger, we made the front page of the Globe and Mail. Unfortunately, Mr. Gates made the second page. And I had a very unhappy client. as a result of that. And thank goodness, we did find the balloon with the police help, and we did find it under a condo building, which was a very dangerous place for it to be. But at least all the communications that we got out there resulted in a couple of phone calls, and we found the balloon. So that unhappy client, but safe community. That was a result of that.
And most important, you kept Microsoft for years and years and years because we lusted for that business.
Yeah, that's right.
We really lusted for that business. So this isn't necessarily a counter story, but one of the realities, one of the strategies at the communications group had always been, with regard to technology clients, was to not work for Canadian startups. Some might have said that was a brilliant decision. Some might have said not very smart. But my sense, and that of my partner, who happens to be my wife, we decided that making sure we had enough to pay the rent, to pay 25 odd people. That number changed up and down a little bit over the course of the years. So the decision was, let's go after multinational Canadian subsidiaries, multinationals. One of them turned out to be McAfee. We had a previous, prior to them coming on board, we had a previous stint, roughly 8-9 years with Symantec. So we certainly knew about software. We certainly knew about the various offerings. The fellow that was running McAfee Canada at the time had been a previous client of another technology company called 3Com. He left to take over at McAfee. And in the summer, I'm going to use this phrase, the summer before 9/11, he reached out and said, I have a PR firm and we have a major event with our CEO coming from Silicon Valley for 3 days in Canada, and my PR consultant does not think there's anything newsworthy. Anyway, subsequently I went to see him. We had this conversation. They had identified 3 days in September of that momentous year, launching in Montreal, then Ottawa, then Toronto. And the days basically were comprised of meeting with news media, meeting with key customers, and then having a team dinner in each of the 3 cities to allow the staff to get to know the new CEO. McAfee had been in some difficulties, and this individual was able to turn them around. He'd never been to Canada, so this other PR firm who said, there's nothing newsworthy. Well, just on this CEO's track record alone, big time newsworthy for print and broadcast outlets. Anyway, bottom line, we arrive in Montreal the night before 9/11. And we happened to be with their chief technology officer whose luggage was lost. I'm going to use the name of the airline, Air Canada. We laughed and said, not to worry, at 5 a.m, somebody from Air Canada will be knocking on your door at the Queen Elizabeth Hotel in Montreal saying, here is your luggage. Yeah. And in fact, that is exactly what happened. At 7:30, about 7 o'clock that morning, the CEO would come in from the night before, was going to come in, frankly, later that morning, the morning of 9/11. We wound up meeting the technology officer, and I and the Canadian president met with a technology writer from Le Devoir. It turned out he was the only one who could speak French, but that was fine. It didn't get in the way. Anyway, bottom line, finishing up about 8:15, and we're at a hotel in downtown Montreal, and there is this unbelievable commotion. People are looking for television sets. Somehow cell phone receptivity wasn't all that good. Turns out the beginning of 9/11 happened. We were, of course, just gobsmacked because, like everybody else, nobody really knew what was happening. And the bigger concern was that the CEO was to be flying into Dorval Airport on a 10 o'clock flight that morning. And of course, after the first tower was hit, the second tower was hit, and the stuff going on at the Pentagon and so on, we're kind of going, oh my goodness, is Chicago going to get hit? And then we're going, our second day is going to be in Ottawa. And we're going to be staying in a hotel, the Chateau Laurier, right next to the Parliament buildings. Is that going to be a target? I mean, nobody knew anything. Anyway, bottom line, we said to the client, we can cancel this news briefing at noon, assuming the CEO does get in, or even if he doesn't get in, we'll still cancel it because it was all about hearing his vision for the company. Canadian president said, no, let's go ahead and do it. We had identified 12 journalists in the greater Montreal area who covered technology. It turned out 6 of them showed up. Did it at a private business club, the Union Club of Montreal. And it turned out that the CEO did arrive. We had a tremendous news conference, but we decided to cancel the customer meetings in Montreal that afternoon and all the events in Ottawa and Toronto for the next 2 days. Again, knowing so little about what was going on and how much out of control we were, despite really good planning. Bottom line, I'll never forget a conversation as I was reaching out to journalists in Ottawa for the next day to cancel the event, speaking with a technology writer at the Ottawa Citizen. And I asked him, I told him that obviously it wasn't happening. He said, well, while I had RSVP'd, yes, I was coming. Obviously, with the way the world is changing, I'm not going to be able to do that. And every one of us journalists in the newsroom at the Ottawa Citizen has been assigned something to keep an eye on what's going on in the community. In fact, I'm going to be sitting outside on mosque, and I have no idea why, but that's what my editor wants me to do. So, hopefully this will all quiet down and someone's down the road will be able to meet with your CEO. But again, as a public relations consultant, our job was to keep calm, keep the client calm, keep the relationship solid with the journalists, but knowing that we were on the cusp and right in the middle of a global tragedy that we ultimately will find a way to get over. And again, was the event a success? Well, it turned out, to our surprise, the Montreal event was very, very successful. But again, we shut everything down with a master plan to go forward in the months ahead.
Good on, Dave. So let's move to another marketing moment. Actually, probably the most fun one.
The hallmark.
The hallmark, the one that I remember the most, because in the days when the PC was hot and everyone was launching new PCs, and we had a client that is no longer there in the group, but a company called AST Computer, and we did take them to be number 1, I think, at one point in market share in Canada. We did some great marketing with them. But I think for me, we launched a new desktop called the Bravo, and I came up with a new tagline, Bravo for Business, which did work and moved a lot of PCs. But in the launch at the Metro Convention Center, we really wanted to kind of show ourselves to be different than Compaq and that HP. Dell was just emerging at that point. And so it came up with the idea that we should bring a lion into the press conference to show how brave the Bravo PC was. So we brought a lion. And today I probably got put in prison for that.
because we didn't ask anybody. The lion was from, I don't think the zoo's there anymore in Bowman. And you know, I asked the guy if he could do it. He said, yeah, as long as I feed the lion before we get there, then you're going to be as friendly as a pussycat. So we brought the lion in, and we brought onto the stage, and he was obviously the center of the Bravo for Business launch, and we got a lot of applause. So I really thought it was kind of fun thing, and we got a lot of headlines as a result of it. So I guess we were doing our job as a marketing and PR company. But I got banned from the Metro Convention Center, so for 3 months. So and I really, you know, is it the kind of thing we should have done? No, probably not. But you know, was it fun? Yeah, it was definitely fun. And you know, if you can't do things on the edge, then things on the edge are always fun, and they make people stop and think. So that's sort of my next marketing moments. And if you can think of something like that as a marketeer, and in today's world, I'm not sure what it would be, but boy, it really works. David, over to you with a marketing moment.
Well, over the course of the years, like you, Phil, we've represented a whole slew of technology companies. We launched Dell Computer. You mentioned Dell earlier. We launched Dell in Canada when no one knew who Dell was. And one of the challenges was, people would say, "Oh, you're working for Bell." We'd say, "No, it's Dell with a D." And we brought Michael Dell into Toronto. We wound up with a wonderful event at the Art Gallery of Ontario. It's all tied to their corporate positioning as supporters of the arts rather, specifically in their headquarters in Round Rock, Texas. But there was a story I'd like to share with you with regard to a client we represented called Honeywell. Honeywell had actually wound up doing a deal with a French large mainframe company called Bull, and the company in Canada then became Honeywell Bull. In the first year of planning, this had already happened when we were brought in. They said, "We've become a principal sponsor of Skate Canada, and we're going to be donating product for the judges to use in judging the skaters." The event's going to be in a small town, Lethbridge, Alberta, and that was strategic from Skate Canada's standpoint. The management was always concerned that you never wanted to see empty seats. So we always went to small markets, Halifax, Burnaby, BC, Saskatoon. They never wanted to take a chance of having the cameras pan and see empty seats in large arenas, whether Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver as examples. Anyway, so we have this event. It's already been set up, and all the paperwork had been done. The client said we need to generate visibility for a company. Now, this was a real challenge because the audience, primarily female, not really, today with technology, the female purchaser is queen and is royalty and is an influencer and is important. But for large mainframe computers back before the century turn, it was an all male decision process. So in any event, we asked the question, how was it that you've done this sponsorship? Well, it turned out the president's wife loved figure skating. She was the driver to have Honeywell Bull support this initiative. Now, clients said it's too late to get an ad in the program, and we can't get any editorial. What could we do? Well, I hearkened back we were in a strategy meeting, and I harken back to when I was a kid growing up in Calgary. And in the hockey program for the old Western Hockey League, the team was called the Calgary Stampeders. So there's some history for you. There was always a page with illustrations of the various penalties that the referees would give out, cross-checking, boarding, tripping. And there's a little caricature of a referee with a striped shirt. So anyway, bottom line, we came back and said to the client, you know, most people, unless you're really into figure skating, don't understand how to score. What is a triple sow count? What is this? What is that? Whatever. So we created a single sheet which could be inserted into the program. However, the organizers, Skate Canada, wouldn't let us do that. We hired some high school kids in Lethbridge, and we were handing them out free, single sheet, to people coming to watch the skaters perform. We, after a couple of hours, we were ushered off the property because we didn't ask permission. And we had no choice other than to do it again on the second day. We were ushered off the second day. We didn't do it on the third. However, the next year, when the program was being prepared by the Skate Canada organizers, guess what? They included our scoring chart that we handed out with some initiative. Were we successful? I think we were.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good story. I like that. Right. Well, another marketing moment. It's actually another Microsoft marketing moment, and it's pretty easy to date it because it was the launch of Windows 95 in Toronto, and you know, Windows 95 was a big deal, and you know, Microsoft had rode past everybody, and they really hadn't been expected to do that at the beginning, and Windows 95 really kind of, you know, was hot stuff, and obviously we had no trouble getting journalists, getting media there at that point. But the big thing was we wanted to, you know, it was a big deal. We wanted to impress people, impress the public as well. So we had the launch downtown at the convention center again, CN Tower, and we asked the CN Tower if we could have people up, you know, up on top to wave, basically. What we didn't tell them was that those people were also going to basically jump off the tower and you know, with a rope on and come down. So another one of those things that we took it a little bit further than we were supposed to. But oh man, I always remember it was a bit scary actually watching the guys jump off. And it was the same guy, I can't remember his name now, that jumped off various buildings. Anyway, he jumped off and it was very successful and it worked and nobody got hurt. But again, it's sort of that thing that, you know, in the 90s and early 2000s, really, I would say really only in the 90s. By the end of the 90s, that kind of sort of scary marketing, you know, crazy marketing, pretty much got shut down. And it was dangerous marketing, so it kind of should have gotten shut down, but while it was there, it was pretty cool. So you're not likely to see that marketing moment anymore. The Lion and for me, the convention center, CN Tower area, the Lion and the Jumper were two massive events and massively successful in the marketing. That's good.
So, there's another example that I wanted to share with you, but to go back to an earlier point you raised about in starting the business, what one needed, and I talked about, besides finding a place to hang his hat, I talked about accountant in a bank and lawyer, and listening to your story about the jumper reminded me that I think we walked down a really solid insurance company to make sure that that everyone was protected no matter what we may have done. In that sense, so I just wanted to add that fourth element to initial decision making. We in representing multinational clients, we sometimes found the parent company was in trouble, and yet the Canadian subsidiary was not. And the one that comes to mind, Phil, is WorldCom. And we represented WorldCom Canada, and we were brought in by a longtime telecom industry veteran by the name of Tal Bevan. Tal hired us, and turns out one of the first things we wound up doing with them was helping publicize and promote their involvement with the Hockey Hall of Fame in downtown Toronto. And what we wound up doing was holding customer events, news media, briefings, and so on and so forth. And every year for, I guess, about 3-4 years, we repped WorldCom Canada. We would have a golf tournament usually we vary the golf courses, but in the Greater Toronto area. And we leveraged the relationship with the Hockey Hall of Fame so that every golf foursome had a Hockey Hall of Fame player. And boy, if you play hockey, you sure know how to golf. So there were 5 in every foursome, and it turned out that the foursome I wound up playing on was with Guy Lafleur, the late Guy Lafleur from Montreal Canadiens. Anyway, bottom line, he made us all look like amateurs, that was for sure. Even the better players were foursome, but every foursome had a player attached. At the conclusion of the tournament, there's the usual, stand around and sort of talk about your game and your day and everything else, and then there was a dinner. So there would be tables of 10, and would allow for the foursome, Hockey Hall of Fame player, for I guess really 2 foursomes, and besides Lafleur at our table, Johnny Bauer and his WorldCom foursome were there. Everyone got that group a Maple Leaf authentic jersey with Bauer's number and so on. I have in my collection a Guy Lafleur signed Montreal Canadiens sweater. Everyone that whole tournament got a signed hockey stick by about 30 of the different Hockey Hall of Fame players. But what was really cool was that every golf tournament, as most of you know, is a photographer. Well, we had a photographer who actually took shots of each of the members of the foursome at different points in the course, whether it is driving, putting, or what have you. And then at the end of the evening, the 4 plus Guy Lafleur were in hockey cards on a frame that was mounted that you could hang in your office. And it was an unbelievable momentum. And this was all thanks to Tal Bevan's leadership. How did WorldCom get that Hockey Hall of Fame sponsorship? Well, Bell Canada gave it up. And it wasn't more than a couple of weeks that Tal was able to lock down that sponsorship specifically for the room where all the Hockey Hall of Fame trophies reside. And, and it helped us promote the Canadian success despite having to deal with ongoing press from across 49th parallel saying WorldCom was in trouble when in fact WorldCom Canada wasn't.
Thanks. That's great.
We talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen across Canada and deliver the news, trends, knowledge, and opinions from entrepreneurs and business influencers across the country.